In this lesson, we'll make some final tweaks to our model in Cinema 4D. So we're going to stay pretty simple here with our model. So we want to just kind of rename things. So we can call this blade. Now keep in mind that naming is important when you're using GoZ. So if you have subtools that are named the same, you want to rename those to something a little bit different so that we don't get confused here. The software doesn't get confused as it tries to bring those back and forth. You want to make sure that your names are unique. And so I'm going to go ahead and rename this as well. Blade material. Okay. Now one thing that I notice is the blade's pretty soft, so I'm going to go into the Phong tag for the blade and turn on the angle limit and then set that to something a little bit lower. You can see if I set it up a little bit higher, we can start to get some of the oddness there. So I'm going to set that down to 20 or 30 to get some of that sharpness back on the blade. Also, we can go into some of the materials, and you can get as complex with this as you want. You know, if you want to use body paint to come in and paint specular maps to define the specularity of these, that's certainly an option that you can do here in Cinema 4D, and we've done that in a couple of other courses. And so I'm just going to go into the specular here and just kind of dial this down, and looking at that handle there, you can see that I'm starting to get a little bit more of what I might want. So taking that down to maybe something like that, so it gets a little bit of shine there. Okay, I might want to leave the specularity on this carved piece here. Looking at that, I can make that a bit wider, tighten it up a little bit, make it a bit shinier. Maybe something like that. On the guard, we may want to make that specular a bit tighter, but not take it down too much. Okay, and then on the blade itself, we can play around with some of the values there. We don't want to make it too shiny. We want to have a little bit more of a tighter spec, and then you can also render that to see that it looks a little bit different. So your OpenGL settings will affect the look in real time of in the editor here as well. Okay, then we can come in and grab all of this and we'll just group it together, and we'll call this sword. Okay, and then we can take our axis, and if we want to center the axis, let's think about this. I want to take probably the grip, and let's go ahead and center the axis of the grip, and then we'll just go back and center parent to, and so that will take that sword and move the axis there on the grip as well. Okay, so we can kind of rotate it from there. Now another option that you can use to actually create your geometry here is if you want to get a little bit more custom, instead of just using the geometry that's coming from ZBrush, you can actually take the high res and build the low resolution geometry around it and then take it back into ZBrush. We're not able to project it here in Cinema 4D, but we can take it back to ZBrush and project that through in a few different ways to get the geometry. If you want to get something that the topology is a bit more custom and more optimized for games, this is certainly a low resolution piece, but it definitely could be optimized. If you wanted to really just build around the specific pieces, you could really make that an optimized piece. And so that's another option available to you. Okay, but I think over the last couple of hours, we just spent some time building up our base pieces here in Cinema 4D, looking at how we can take that geometry really quickly out into ZBrush to do our sculpting and painting, and then just as quickly taking that geometry from ZBrush along with the maps, normal maps that are that we're able to now recreate that look here in Cinema 4D very, very quickly, and with a piece of geometry that is, you know, really easy to move around and deal with. Okay, and you can optimize that a lot more if you wanted to as well. You could make this all one piece if you wanted to, and really optimize your polygon count. All right, so I hope you enjoyed the last couple hours looking at building sort of a low-res weapon here in Cinema 4D and ZBrush, and look forward to seeing the weapons that you create by applying these techniques to your own projects. So thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.